homemade premiere of Cooking Corner with me, Giuseppe CrimiVaroli. Today for you, we're going to kick off the season with an Italian classic, homemade pasta. In terms of ingredients, you're going to need the following. You're going to need flour and you're going to need eggs. It's pretty bare bones. In terms of hardware, there's not that much to go over if you're using only your hands, which I am. However, if you have something like an Atlas hand crank or a KitchenAid with the pasta maker attachment, it's a lot easier to shape and cut your dough into the pasta shapes. But for the sake of Cooking Corner, I'm going to do it all by hand. So here's what you're going to need. You're going to need 2 hands. You're going to need a measuring cup. You're going to need a rolling pin. You're going to need a knife. And you're going to need a pot and strainer to cook your pasta. La prima istruzione, come sempre, è lavarsi le mani. Hai bisogno bagnarti le mani. Quando le tue mani sono bagnate, hai bisogno aggiungere il sapone. Quando le tue mani sono inzuppate, lava via il sapone con acqua. Quando le tue mani sono pulite, asciugale. Moving right along to step number 2, and step number 2 is going to be make a flour volcano with a flour mold. So, what you're going to need to do is take 2 cups of flour and spoon them onto your counter. Once you've done that, you want to press the flour out a little bit so that you can make a well in the middle, or a volcano. Once you've got your volcano set, you're going to use your fingers to trace a little flour moat around the outside to catch any runoff. Moving on to step number 3. Step number 3 is going to be add your eggs to your flour. So, what you're going to need to do is add 3 eggs into the middle of your volcano. We'll call it your lava. Then, you're going to use your fingers to pinch the yolks and break them. Once you've done that, you can start working your dough. That right there is why we have the moat, in case of runoff. Once your eggs are all cracked, you can start working your dough. Now, your dough is starting to come together, but something's not quite right. It's too dry. So, what you're going to need to do is add 1 tablespoon of water at a time to your dough until it starts to get a little bit sticky. We're still not quite there yet, so you're going to add some more water. So, your dough is really starting to come together. A telltale sign you're almost done is when your dough is just ever slightly sticky. So, if you take it and crush it in your hand and pull your fingers away and they stick, it's too sticky. There's too much water in it. You need to add a bit more flour to it. Otherwise, if you press your finger into it and there's almost no stickiness at all, that's when your dough is done. Once your dough is done, it's time to move on to step number 4. Step number 4 is going to be roll out your dough. Now, if you're doing it by hand, this step is gonna take a while, but I'm gonna show you how to do it. To start with, you're gonna need your rolling pin and you're gonna need your dough. You're gonna sprinkle a little bit of flour on top of your dough, rub it around, flip the dough over, get some flour on the other side so it doesn't stick to the counter or the rolling pin. Then, you're gonna start rolling it flat. Once your dough is mostly stretched out, what you're going to want to do is take a knife and cut it into 3 somewhat equal pieces. This will help roll the dough out easier. Once you've got your dough separated into 3 pieces, you can get right back to rolling it. You need to roll it until it's literally like paper thin as you can possibly get it. And you want to make sure you don't get any creases or folds in it. If you do, you have to take the time and uncrease and unfold it. Understand? All right, back to it. So you can see here, when rolling the dough, I've created a crease. So I just need to go back and unfold that crease. Just like that. Now ideally, what you're going to want to do is roll it into a rectangle, and here's why. Because once it's rolled into a rectangle, you can fold it and cut it in half. And then you can cut the slices of pasta out of one of those halves. So once you're convinced your pasta is paper thin, hold your hand under it. And if you can see your hand through it, it's almost done. You just got to keep rolling it until it's as thin as you can get it. Now, while you can only get it so thin by rolling it with your hands, if you're using a machine, you don't want to make it the thinnest possible setting. You want to roll it to like a 3. That's the setting on my KitchenAid that I use. Once you've rolled it as thin as possible with your hands, an easy way to test if it's done is to hold it up with your hand under it. If you can see your hand very clearly through the pasta, that means it's the right thinness. So, go ahead, lay it back on your counter, fold it over itself, make a little crease, unfold it, and cut the dough in half. Now, ready to move on. Moving on to step number 5. And step number 5 is going to be roll your pasta and slice it in shapes. Now, what do I mean by that? What you're going to need to do is take your thin pasta dough, fold it in half, and then roll it up into a tube. Once it's rolled, you're going to take your knife and slice down into the thickness of pasta you want. So go ahead, fold your pasta in half, roll it up, grab your knife, get the end off of there, and start cutting it up. There are more exact tools you can use than a butter knife, but this works just fine. Once you've got these nice little pasta roll-ups, what you're going to want to do is pull them apart. So go ahead and carefully unroll them by hand. Just like that. And you've got yourself a piece of pasta. Once your pasta is cut into shapes, what you're going to need to do is take it and toss it in some flour. So go ahead, put some flour in a bowl, get the pasta in there, toss it, then shake the flour off of it. and you can lay it out on your counter to dry. You can do this with the rest of your pasta dough. Roll it out, cut it in half, roll it up, slice it into the pasta shape, unroll it, toss it in flour, and leave it out to dry. While your pasta is drying, you can put up a pot of water to boil and get ready for the next step. Moving on to step number 6. And step number 6 is going to be cook your pasta. Now that your water's boiling, you can take the lid off and add your pasta and cook it for 2 minutes. And then you can drain it. Go ahead, get your pasta, drop it in there. Use something to stir it around so it doesn't all stick together. And time out 2 minutes. Once your 2 minutes is up, what you can do is strain your pasta. And move on to the final step. Time for the final step, which is going to be plating. Go ahead, take your pasta, transfer it to a plate, and you're ready to enjoy. Now it's time for a taste test. So go ahead, get in there. Get yourself some pasta. It's a little hot. Now that is delicious. Now that your pasta's done, you can dress it up with whatever sauces and cheeses that you like. And you're finished with the recipe. Thank you for tuning in to the Season 8 premiere of Cooking Corner with me, Giuseppe CrimiVaroli. I hope you stay tuned for the rest of the season because we got a lot of great recipes coming at you. But until then, bye-bye now.